Okay. Okay, I'm gonna call this Ordinance Subcommittee meeting, May 21st, 2019, 5:15 p.m. to order. Looks like we are all here. I did notice some minutes. Did you have a chance to look at them, or do you want to wait till the next one?
I did.
Okay.
And I would make one suggestion.
Okay.
Use spell check.
Oh, did I miss that? Then what did I miss?
It's like dropped participles and so, but otherwise the content was totally fine.
Do you want to wait, or do you want to? Okay.
I mean,
let me see if
Barbara may get it and go,
do you have the dates?
I do. Let me just.
it's like, well, there was like the sentences end.
I think I was being a little bit more brief than I normally am, which is still more detailed.
And we decided, and that would be the end of that sentence.
Oh.
I'm wondering if somebody else wants to take minutes.
Oh, I think I'm supposed to take minutes.
Here, I can tell you when these are. Sorry, give me 1 second. I just
Yep.
find that link. So
I don't think I like Snicker.
it was 3/7, 4/9, 4/9, and 4/30.
3/7, 4/9, and 4/30.
Yeah.
Hazelnut and Minette.
Okay.
And then there's the welcoming trust ones. I
Okay.
gotta get to you guys.
3/7, 4/9, 4/30.
Other than any issues regarding
No, the content
application
was
of Strunk
fine.
and White.
Content was fine.
Okay. I
Is there a
appreciate
motion?
feedback.
Motion to approve the minutes as
3/9,
3/9,
3/7,
3/7, no, 4/9.
No, here, let me get it down.
3/9, 4/7, 4/30.
Yeah, that, motion to approve those.
Oh, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good stuff. Okay, well, our agenda keeps getting longer
Where do we begin?
and longer. So we have 2 new items, and it looks like one of them is relatively straightforward, so maybe we can discuss this one. This is the Board of Public Works. The president requested that we adopt some new language in the ordinances that would authorize the Board of Public Works to perform job responsibilities that they're already doing that just aren't specified in the charter. This, I believe, it looks to me like this was something that was sent from our city solicitor to the president and had quite a bit of,
It was originated by the city solicitor?
I
Or
think-
was it originated by Joe Tuesday?
well, so I have Joe's request, and the only other piece of correspondence it looks like is
His response to Joe's request, I think. Because it's direct, that was city council, but then there's another one
That was 2 packets ago, right?
that Joe, he's
This
got,
isn't the
hello,
last
Attorney
package.
Tanner, I'd like to ask for some guidance.
maybe I don't have that
That
piece of
was
paper.
from Joe on March
And this is the
5th.
response.
This is his response on April 1st, and then Joe sent it
April
to us
1st.
on May 8th.
Okay. So, well, anyway, the legal opinion looks like it would make sense for us to pass an ordinance to grant these powers to the Board of Public Works that aren't specified in the charter. So, I don't necessarily think we need to vote on this tonight. I just thought maybe we could just.
Is the ordinance, would we have to write the ordinance though? Is it,
It's like an amendment.
It's an amendment.
It's already there.
It's here.
Mhm. Is there any pitfall to this at all that
I
you
don't
can think of?
I mean, it basically would allow them to do repair and maintenance on city buildings. I think it would authorize them to make repairs on things that maybe like their vehicles. So it would allow them to repair things as opposed to, which isn't specified in the charter. I think that's one of the things that it allows them to do.
So currently, are there? This must have been apropos of something, I'm assuming.
Well, Stan was on the BPW, so he was on the board.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, it sounds reasonable. I just didn't know if there was like, for instance, are we contracting out for work for certain things that could be done in-house or something of that sort?
No, because what I got from this was that we were already doing it.
Right.
And the charter allows us to, but this is just tightening up the language.
I see.
I might be able to add a little.
Okay.
The DPW has taken over the responsibilities of building operations, which used to fall under the mayor's office.
Okay.
So what I think this is allowing Joe Piff to use his employees to help fix building operations stuff.
Right.
I think that's what it is.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, it seems like it, relative delegation of responsibility for the repair and maintenance of municipal buildings to the Easthampton DPW.
Yes.
So I mean, you know, I think this one is relatively straightforward, which is
Yeah.
good. You know, I don't know. I think if we want, we can just take a look at it and maybe vote on our next meeting.
Yeah.
That way, since we did just get it, I mean, it does seem straightforward, but
I don't have any particular concerns.
I would like to read it, though. I haven't really read all the way through it.
that's fine.
I read, yeah.
Nobody said anything about there being a rush
Yeah.
with it, so I think that's fine as well.
I mean, when did they, March 6th? 2 months.
Yeah.
We're good.
Oh, and I did update. I did send an email to Mark Tanner.
Did you
Yeah,
hear back?
I haven't heard back yet. But then again, I also forgot that you had emailed me and asked him, so I just did. So, sorry. There was a lot going on. So, but I think as far as meetings go, I think if we can get that opinion back, and we could set the public hearing in June for July.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. That would be the timetable I would look for.
Okay. I think that should be reasonable.
Would you councilors like to clarify for the public who are watching what you're talking about?
The welcoming community ordinance, I'm waiting, we are collectively waiting for the attorney, and I'd asked Councilor Derby if he could give a little
Nudge.
reminder.
Yep. Because so we can set a public hearing, since we already did vote that at the committee. Councilor Zare, do you want to talk about the new business you submitted?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think, let me pull it up, sorry. I know
That's
it's
fine.
somewhere, but we have to find, it's all over the place. So I think in this discussion about, I mean, this all ties in together. I think within this discussion regarding, sorry, I can't do three things at once. Give me 1 second. The discussion regarding the uses and applicable uses of Manhattan Rail Trail. I think
Okay.
we have kind of some general guidelines within our current ordinance, which are pretty straightforward. Somewhat of a definition of a bicycle, although I would argue that may have evolved a little bit from that definition, which I thought was important to clarify that. There's also discussions about I didn't include the entire. Especially now with the use of this mention of electric assist, helping clarify exactly what that is. I was doing some research there, and those are the big things. I think there's been some discussion. We didn't really have any clarification previously about really how much space something can take up on the rail trail, as well as I'm trying to look what else I've put up here. There's been discussions about there's all these different kinds of electric bicycles. There's true electric assist bicycles, which are one that operate only when someone's pedaling, and then there's more traditional, where there's basically throttle controlled e-bikes, and there's different kinds there. I was able to get some information from, I'm jumping around between my documents here, so forgive me, but I did get some information from the Massachusetts Bicycle Coalition, who has the language I used was kind of mirroring some bills that are currently in play in the State House. So I thought it was important when we have all these different kind of electrical bicycle types to clarify what those are, what's allowed, what isn't allowed, in regards to, the speeds and method in which they operate. And those were pretty much the big things.
Okay.
and I think the biggest thing was really trying to kind of creating these classes which correspond to the language on the state level in terms of what is what. It's 3 separate classes of electric bicycles and kind of specifying what each of those are, and then just determining what's appropriate to operate on the bike path. Because, for instance, there's some electric bikes out there which are basically bike frames, 2-wheeled bike frames equipped with electric motor, but they have throttle control like a motorcycle basically, and they can fly down the bike path. And I don't know from a safety perspective, and again, intention, when you go back to our original language that specifically discusses motor vehicles, well, at what point does a bicycle become a motor vehicle?
Motorcycle.
Yeah, exactly. Right, just because it has pedals.
Well, and there's a new generation of motorcycle that is electric.
Right.
And so I don't think those would necessarily, I mean, and those things top out at over 100 miles an hour, so
Right.
probably not appropriate for the bike path.
Right.
Yeah.
But I thought it was also important to kind of clarify, because as we will be having the bike share, it's important to kind of clarify or specify language that specifically permits those bikes.
Are those going to be, they're not there. Are those going to be motor assist?
So those are electric assists, in the sense that I conversed via email with representatives from is it Western Mass Bike Share? Is that what they're called? I'm blanking on the official name, but just to clarify exactly how those work, because there were discussions about that last time, and they are electric assist, which means that the motor only functions when the pedals are being used. If you're not pedaling, the motor doesn't work.
Okay.
As opposed to a throttle controlled electric bike, which you could pedal it, or you could basically use a throttle to propel it. But the main method of propulsion is not necessarily pedaling.
So do we allow things like Vespas on the bike path today?
No.
Are these classes that you've defined, are they state level classifications or Owen level classifications?
These are taken directly from the, again, these are, I mean, some of
You
them
have to
level.
clear.
So those were taken directly from the Massachusetts Bicycle Coalition.
Okay.
Because I was trying to find some language that offered some sort of guidance as to kind of how to classify these vehicles.
Okay.
So that was from the Massachusetts Bicycle Coalition, and there's a couple, there's a bill both in the State House and Senate basically using that specific language to help classify these vehicles.
And Chapter 90, Section 1B, is that in place today? That's about electric bikes, so that is already a thing?
That is a thing.
Okay. And they're just amending it or clarifying it with these other things that are in the works?
Yes.
Expanding
I'd have to look up the
clarifying.
language. I apologize, I didn't give you the language for that. I can pull that up really quickly.
Yeah, it's fine.
But, yeah.
But it's all part of, that's the section that the other bills are going to address, is that 90, Section 1B?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, in some way, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I'm trying to find the language here.
What's a GVW?
Gross vehicle weight?
You may have to write that out in the action. Is that what's in the ordinance today?
There's nothing in the ordinance today, but I think there was like, I mean, you could probably speak to this a little bit, maybe.
Gross vehicle weight?
No, I just
Well,
wanted to
no,
know
I
what it
mean-
meant, that's all.
I mean, I guess the question is like, is a vehicle that's 500 pounds that's propelled by pedals still a bicycle?
Well, that is just one of the questions that we never get an answer.
Well, I know, right. So, again,
And does it matter?
It does. Well, again, as with many things that I recommend, it's a list of recommendations and painting in broad strokes to pick and choose, and yeah.
But I think that's the kind of the overarching question is, does that question that you just asked matter enough to put an ordinance around it? Like as the size of a vehicle goes up and the gross vehicle weight goes up, at what point do we care?
Well, the larger a vehicle is, the harder it is to control, especially in regards to braking and things like that, and momentum. It takes longer to come to a stop.
No.
It's more difficult to handle.
Did you? I'm trying to find the actual wording here. Did you send it in the email?
Yes, he did. Well,
How am I not?
this was part of the packet, and then he sent this in an email today.
I'm wondering that piece. Is
Oh,
that,
that
We're not
piece.
even at-
No, not this piece. No, I'm talking about that
This
piece.
was in the
Which
packet.
I can't find. So I'm wondering if.
It was in the packet.
Can you forward it to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. It was in my. It was.
Do you want just
And
the?
is it gone?
It's gone.
Because you could just go back to Barb's email.
Oh, that packet. Yeah.
The packet.
Yeah. Yes.
So I think so.
It's easier.
Down with it.
The biggest thing for me was clarifying types of electric bikes and kind of trying to define some sort of reasonable use of the bike path, i.e. there are two lanes. There's two directional lanes. You're expected to stay to the right, and there's dividing lines. So much like it wouldn't be acceptable to drive a car down the road that it's so big that it actually goes into the other lane. So too, it would be reasonable to,
Unless you have a oversized
right,
load.
oversized
You have
load,
like a
yeah,
flag.
exactly.
Light
Yeah.
or something.
right.
Yeah.
The vehicle.
Follow.
So that was the purpose behind that.
Okay.
I mean, there's also questions about like if you're riding a bike or vehicle that can go as fast as some of these electric bikes go, should there be helmet regulations for those as well?
Oh my God.
I don't remember seeing that in there.
I don't think I put
Oh,
that
okay.
in there. So it's something to digest.
Okay.
I think it's important to clarify these things though, because I think the current, here, I'm sorry, I'm forwarding this to you right now.
Okay. Thank you. Looks like I
So
got it. Thank you.
so this is basically certainly around safety, for sure. And then because our current ordinance doesn't reference e-bikes in any way,
It talks about, it has specific carve-outs for what's allowed in the bike path, and it says electric assisted bicycles.
okay, and because they've kind of evolved, they can go fairly quickly depending on how you define an electric assisted bicycle.
Correct.
And we're trying to, so we don't have things going 90 miles an hour.
Right.
So in here, I
And
think-
really defining what a bicycle is.
and I think I read in here something about putting speed limits on the Manhan Trail.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that my thought about that is that there's certain sections where we really don't want people to be whizzing down, especially, I think especially between Union and Ferry specifically, and maybe some of the sections that go through and then going the other direction, Union to Payson, and then some of those some part of the section that goes through Williston. As I'm sure our chief would agree, it's difficult. It would be difficult to enforce that. But the question is, by putting up signs, would it be a deterrent?
I mean, my personal thought on that is that, that would be, like the most powerful piece of that would not be an ordinance piece. It would be the Manhattan Rail Trail Committee saying congested, them putting up a sign saying this is a congested area, please slow down, or please mind your speed or something. Because if we pass an ordinance that says, we'll have to put teeth behind it, like, we have, if you ride a motorized vehicle on the bike path now, it's a $125 fine, which used to be a $25 fine, but we upped that. because people were taking snowmobiles on it and digging like deep grooves into the, and still they still went on it, they just, but I mean that's the crux is it would be impossible to enforce.
No, I agree with you.
And then having teeth on it would make no sense, because then it would never be enforced, and then it would just be going through the motion, which I think would probably just effective as if the Manhattan Rail Team said Manhattan Rail Trail Committee said this is a priority for us. We want to put up a sign or something. I mean, I'm sure we could suggest it to them, but I mean that's just my initial thought, because I mean, like on a road bike, I would say you could probably easily hit 30 since the bike path is flat.
No, I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
That's right. And so again, that's why I didn't put in the recommended actual, it was only my cover letter where I talked about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, it would be hard. I don't know how, I mean, even with an electric bike, because I mean, a fast road bike can go just as fast as an electric bike. Because I think most electric bikes are governed, unless someone modifies it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that not all people are able to ride a racing bike that fast down, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely not all people. And it's I think I think that there's some interesting things in here. I think one of the things we'll probably have to do is check in, maybe invite the owner of Manhattan Bike, because I think he sells almost exclusively electric bikes.
Right.
And I know that he has some fat bikes that the whole frame is a battery, so I think they're pretty powerful. Mm-hmm. And just to get a read on, would this, if we banned certain types of bikes from the bike path, would that have an impact on his business that he's been conducting? And he's probably has more info. I mean, I've never been on an electric bike, so
right.
I don't have much of a point of reference.
Yeah, then there's two different classes of the throttle control one. So
right.
I can contact someone also from the bike coalition.
Okay.
So
now, is in the I can't remember in our ordinance, does it define bicycle as 2 or 3 wheels?
It doesn't.
Okay,
it says any wheeled vehicle propelled by pedals, primarily by human power, and operated by one or more persons.
Because I have seen some recumbents that are 4 wheels.
I know, I was thinking about that, yeah.
Do we need, does that portion of the definition need to change? Any wheeled vehicle? Do we need to specify 2, 3, 4, 5, 12? What is the relevance of specifying that?
Again, that was just kind of some state level.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, here it's 56.
Do you want to look at? We have 20 minutes before 6. Do we want to move on to the other one? Is that?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the question. Yes. Well.
Because I think maybe if we. Not that I have read this. This is kind of the second time I've gone over it. Maybe if you want, we can. If there's something that Bob is going to contribute to on this one, we can just move on and go back to this. If that makes sense. If that's what you want. Okay. Either way, doesn't matter. Okay.
So before we get to this,
Yes.
Nick. So I've been doing some research, and my concern is that your vehicle does not fall into the current category. This is really one of the reasons we're discussing this, is because I'm concerned that your vehicle does not fall into a category that is actually specified to be able to operate on a rail trail.
There is no category that this vehicle falls into. That's why we've been at this since July. That's really what it comes down to, and that's what even what the state of Massachusetts representatives say as well. And that's why it's unique, because it's so new and different.
the top speed under power, Nick?
Under power, 4.5 miles an hour. They say 5 in specs, but
On a flat?
I've never seen 5 even on a downhill.
And who's the manufacturer of that?
It is called ZZ Merc out of China. It's Zhangzhon.
Merck is spelled M-E-R-C.
MERK. ZZ. It's just, I would do ZZ and then MERK.
Okay.
You could find it through the Alibaba website.
So, my biggest concern is that this is basically a motorized vehicle. And currently, we don't allow motorized vehicles on the bike path. And it's not a true electric assist bike because it's not powered primarily. The motor doesn't function in conjunction with pedaling. It's independent of that.
When we have people on it, besides when we turn around with you guys, we don't use the electric assist. It's strictly for pedaling. That's the whole entertainment of it. It's a different style of exercise.
Right, but when we were on it, you were running the motor in conjunction with pedaling.
Because everyone was on a time limit and we had to turn it around. It wasn't the pedal thing. You're not even supposed to use the motor when there's more than 2 people on it because it's a little starter motor. It's a baby motor. You burn it out.
I mean, my biggest concern is where.
Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, I'd like to see some more documentation from the state level, kind of where this vehicle falls.
There's none in Massachusetts. We are going to be the first. We're the pioneers. Now, what is everyone so scared of? If unsafe, we're very safe. We go slow. We couldn't even catch up to people walking hand in hand the other day.
Yeah, I'm not worried about safety. I'm just worried about making sure that we're allowing something on the bike path that's actually legally allowed on the bike path. Right? It's got an electric motor. It does function as an electric vehicle. And in regards to it riding on the roads, from a state perspective, is this seen as a vehicle or not?
Can't register it. I would have. I'd bring it right down Cottage Street. That's the whole reason for the bike trail is we do fit with a triple stroller. We're not unsafe. It's safer on the bike trail than the roads. It doesn't cause traffic. It's fun.
Well, I'm not talking about safety or fun. I'm talking about the classification of how this vehicle is classified, right? So
would you rather a big bike than 3 miles an hour that everyone can see for a straight mile, or someone doing 30 when you have a dog and a 2-year-old hand in hand past you?
it's not what I'd rather do. It's that is this vehicle per our current ordinances allowed on our bike trail or our roads?
And as of July 23rd, 2018, with the Manhattan Bike Trail, we couldn't find anything that was wrong with it, and that's why I ordered it. Literally the next day, I ordered the bike because there was nothing that said you can't do it.
I mean, and so I guess I'm a little bit more neutral in this. I am not necessarily concerned about the classification of it because if I mean, this is just my thought, is that if it's not classified that it can't be on, and it's not classified then it can be on, and the Rail Trail Committee had no problem with it, then I'm not concerned necessarily about it. And I don't know. Are we talking about like creating an ordinance that would strictly, prohibit this?
No, I'm talking about whether our current ordinances allow it.
Okay. I think that since it doesn't have any sort of classification, that if it didn't allow it, it would specifically state that it didn't allow it.
It's a motorized vehicle, and we don't allow motorized vehicles on the bike path.
But we do. I think this is the primary means of propulsion on this, and I'm neutral. I just don't think it's necessarily prohibited under our current ordinance, because I think its primary means of propulsion is people pedaling it. It seems like the motor is a secondary kind of emergency piece that similar to a pedal assist bike that has an electric motor. I mean, that's just my current understanding of it.
Considered an electric vehicle?
Well-
Because there's no pedaling in there, and they do the same speed as us.
Yes, except they're allowed to be on the bike path because it's a mobility assistant device. This isn't for people who using this because they have disabilities. This is for commercial and recreational use.
But then, I mean, then again, I also don't know necessarily if it's within. I don't necessarily know if it's our job to. I guess it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. To make that determination whether it fits under the current ordinance, because I think that we don't allow electric vehicles on like vehicles,
Mhm.
but we do allow bikes, and technically this classifies as a bike, and so I think the interpretation of that ordinance, because it's a little, we're in kind of a gray area, I would say would default to the rail trail committee, and that would be their call. I mean, that's just unless we changed it to make it explicit.
Yeah, I mean, with all due respect to the Rail Trail Committee, I don't know if they're.
Can I say something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I wasn't at the original meeting when he was there, okay? When it was presented to the committee, the size was different. It was,
Pull the video. I'd love to pull the video.
They have the-
I presented it exactly.
the email that was sent to the committee was a different size than what it is now. Barbara has the copy of it. Okay, it was 3 feet skinnier. And at the time also that there was no mention of alcohol on it. So that's why the committee said, oh, that sounds like a good
And that's
thing.
why we're starting without the alcohol.
Yeah,
And we
but
improve ourselves.
let me finish. I'm just saying, I wasn't there, but this is why it was, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, because the specifications were a little bit different than what they are, what it is now. And again, no mention of alcohol, so it was
Right.
like, give it a try, sure.
Well, I would think that the alcohol piece is
Yeah.
off the table now.
Yeah.
It seems like. I mean, I hear that. Like I said, I'm comfortable because there is a bit of an ambiguity here. I would, as the chair, I would feel comfortable if the Rail Trail Committee felt comfortable with it, that they could make that determination. I think if they didn't feel comfortable with it, then that would be the point where we need to clarify, and that would be a potential ordinance that would clarify that, specifically prohibiting this type of vehicle from going on the bike path. I mean, that's just my thought.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
What do you think, Peg?
I think in looking at kind of, Owen, what you put together, this feels very, is oppressive the right word? It feels really heavy for this vehicle. This is a lot of regulations around this, and I'm not on board with that. There's just a lot of things, and I don't even know who would manage all these things, and you have in here city clerk stuff, Barb's gonna have a heart attack. But besides that, I don't want to over-regulate things to this degree when, especially 4.5 miles an hour, doesn't feel like,
Dangerous?
yeah, it doesn't feel. There are other things about it that I think are much more dangerous than the speed at which it's moving. And the seats, we talked about that. Like, they scare the snot out of me. Fully sober, I'm gonna fall out of that thing. So that, and I mean, we're joking about it, but that's a concern. I've kind of gone around this bend a few times, and I'm probably not worried about multiple businesses coming in to do the same thing, because I think this is going to be hard for you to make money at. That's just my initial reaction to it. Maybe I'm wrong. But I do think the alcohol thing is a no. But know, it just, it's hard to overrate, this feels like we're overly
Like
regulating.
before there's a problem necessarily.
Right.
I mean, which is good. Proactive is good.
Well-
But so can I just ask one quick thing?
Sure.
So the piece of the current bicycle ordinance that you think that you feel would prohibit this is, can you just state that?
There's no motorized vehicles along the bike path.
Section 3-17, restricted usage. Use of any motorized vehicle, including snow or recreational vehicle, is prohibited on the city-owned Manhan Rail Trail. The following exceptions: vehicle used for mobility, electric wheelchairs, electric assist bicycles.
It's not an
Right.
electric assisted bicycle though.
Okay.
Well,
I mean, I think that's, you're parsing words there a little bit. I mean, it is an electric assist bicycle. It has bicycle pedals. It has a chain. It has, I mean, it maybe is not a traditional sense of a bicycle.
It also weighs 2 tons. So, I mean,
The maintenance guy said our weight has nothing to do with anything. He drives his truck on there. He actually wants us to be there, he said,
well,
in our meeting.
again, it has nothing to do with the weight thereof. It has to do with the traditional bicycles that weigh 2 tons.
Right. And I think, I mean, so just to be, full disclosure, I wrote that paragraph.
It's a beautifully written paragraph.
Thank you. And, really what we were concerned about was, when we were writing that, was, motorcycles,
Of course.
dirt bikes,
Mhm.
snowmobiles, things that were loud, like gaseous and obnoxious. So, I mean, I think...
Electric? It's yours electric.
Yeah, electric assist.
So,
You don't
yeah.
use gas, right?
No,
no.
no way.
I mean, so I guess I hear what you're saying. I hear that that you could interpret this as outside of an electric assist bicycle. I mean, and potentially, I think that as the ordinance is written, it would allow that unless you changed it to say no electric assist pedal taverns, or like you were more specific, because this doesn't. There's ambiguity here that if you read that, you'd be like, oh, it's an electric assisted bicycle, which then you would make your plans to go forward and spend money to put something that you believe by reading the ordinance. A reasonable person would read that and think that, I think, a reasonable person would read that and say, an electric assist, mostly pedal, quadricycle would fit under this definition. And who would have thought? Who would have thunk? I mean, and that's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
so here's what I'll say. I'll say, and again, no offense to the Rail Trail Committee, I don't think that they're necessarily in the business of making legal interpretations of York City ordinances. That's
Right.
fair to say. I think that there are questions about this vehicle in terms of its operation or ability to operate on rail trail and our public ways. I think that we do need some sort of opinion that probably means a solicitor or someone involved with the legal team via DOT or both. Chief Alberti.
Sorry. Have you explored with the RMV registering this as a slow-moving vehicle? Have you had any conversation or any correspondence with the RMV at all?
They said it's not a vehicle.
Who are the two people you talked to?
I'd have to go back.
Did they work for Department of Transportation?
Yeah, that was right after I talked to the head of the ABCC.
What's the ABC?
The Alcohol Beverage Control Commission.
So my angle at this is
And like the
more
CCC
from a public way than the bike path. It is for me. So we have some correspondence back and forth with the Deputy General Counsel of the RMB on this, and we're waiting for a little more information and waiting for a ruling from them. They're doing some research on their end as well. Did you have any conversation with the Department of Public Utilities, the DPU?
I have not.
Because apparently they regulate even electric, what they refer to as a party bus. I just found that out today. So
What was that? I'm sorry.
they regulate even under an electric assist or electric vehicle, a party bus. Check out their website; it's pretty interesting, actually. And I was one of the questions that the general counsel asked was, has anybody spoken to anybody at the DPU yet regarding this topic or vehicle?
I wish we were us, we'd be able to.
Then you'd have public.
Right, no, that was why he asked the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, and the other questions too were the top speed of it, to determine the motive of power of the vehicle. And I think there's an argument, I think to the chair's point, I think there's some gray area, at least to the point of, is it propelled by pedals alone, and is it really assist, or is that really, a front for an electric vehicle? Obviously I didn't ride the thing, but what I saw from the counselors that did ride it is they were exhausted after 3 pedals.
It's true.
Yeah.
Some of them.
So, and then it begs to ask the question, is this a golf cart, which is not allowed on public ways, right? You can't take a golf cart down the street, even if you put pedals on it, you still can't take a golf cart down the street. So, in my humble opinion, I think that there's still got to be a little more research, maybe from our end, with regard to, and we're still waiting for a response from the general counsel of the RMB as well.
So if I take the batteries out, it's not electric anymore. And that's how we operated for 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
All the way
If
from
there was no
Route
electric assist, then it would be a bicycle.
Of course.
Yeah.
Or quadricycle.
Quadricycle.
Yeah, maybe I'm stupid, but I think a bicycle goes pedals forward.
No.
Not necessarily.
No, okay.
No, you can,
I mean, you
there's,
can sit and face this way and pedal and still go forward.
Yep.
I've never seen one except for that.
there's some crazy art bikes out there.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Councilor Khan.
I think I forgot what I was gonna say.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's primarily, oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Chief, are you concerned about this vehicle being on the Easthampton streets
I'm more
for any amount of
concerned,
time?
yes, I'm actually more concerned about being on the streets than I am the bike.
So if that was prohibited, if we didn't allow it even by ordinance, if we said, Nick, you cannot go on the streets, it eliminates your concerns?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we still, the bike path is still a concern of
Yeah.
ours, because we have to enforce it. But, and that's why I think it's better suited right now, personally, for if the RMV says this is a vehicle and he's got to register it, then he can't go on a bike path.
Right.
If the RMV says it's not a vehicle and there's no way to register
Then it
because
can't
it's
go on
not
the
a
street.
vehicle, then it can't, right. So, exactly, so we're in kind of a bit of a quandary. But that's why I think, for me personally, at least for the public ways for sure, I would like some more guidance from the RMV.
Is Route 5 from the entrance to the bike path up to wherever you garage it, is any of that Easthampton or is that a state road?
Both. There's a part of it is Easthampton, it is a state road, and it's part, and
So
it's
you-
oil.
So the only way for you to get it here is to drive down Route 5?
I trailered it last week.
Okay, that's another option. Okay.
I mean, I guess if it was primarily powered by pedaling with no motor, then that's a different question, and that just comes down more to what is a bicycle size, what are reasonable size restrictions and things like that.
Right.
To be frank, I still would like a little electric, because the driver still wants to be able to reverse it safely and turn it around.
Right.
Such for people to load up correctly in a safe place.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, I think-
I don't want the electric.
I mean, this
driver, but-
this conversation has shifted a little bit. I mean, basically, the conversation has shifted to, are we looking at allowing, alcohol consumption? Now, I mean, the conversation has shifted to, are we banning this?
I know. I know.
And so, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not comfortable with that. So, because I feel like that is, I'm not necessarily, from my experience, I don't necessarily think that, and this is just my opinion, that we need to ban something that we don't know is a problem, and that could potentially be a benefit for the city. So, I mean, that's my only thing. Like, I've seen it, I've ridden on it. I guess I don't share the same concerns necessarily, because as a bike path user almost daily, I come across a lot of people that are walking 4 people across, have dogs, have children, and it's just another user that you just have to make a safe decision around. If I go if I'm passing a family of 4 that's taking up more than the half of the bike path, I have to be a smart bike path user and announce myself and go slowly by them. And if they have a dog or if they have little kids that are running around, I have to be safe. I mean, that's my, and like I said, this is my opinion. I think this is another user of the bike path that is not so egregious that it needs to be legislated out of the bike path. That's my opinion.
And I'm not looking to legislate anything out. I'm not looking to ban anything. My question is it allowed?
Right. Well, I mean, that's where we're going here. I think is legislating this off the bike path potentially.
Well, no. I'm just asking for we're make sure that it's properly classified, that we're not disobeying any of our current ordinances by allowing a vehicle on the bike path or a public way as it isn't necessarily allowed.
Yeah.
I also did provide you with an ordinance. I provided you with an ordinance. So in all fairness, this is more of an intellectual discussion. This isn't meant to try to restrict anyone's business but it's meant to clarify because we really haven't had this discussion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, but the clarification is the end point of it is to restrict this from going on the bike path. Because it's an electric bike. It's got 4 wheels, but it's an electric bike. To pedal it, it's an electric bike. But it's an electric assist bike. So, the ordinance says this is an electric assist bike, and so I guess I respectfully disagree that this is it's like super unclear. I feel like an electric assist bike is specifically allowed on the bike path. We never specified how many wheels it had or the size, which means it's allowed. If we specified how many wheels or the size, that would make it not allowed. Does that make sense?
It does, although to the chief's point, if you put pedals on a golf cart, it doesn't make it a bicycle.
Yeah, but a golf cart also probably has a top speed of 15 miles an hour.
Well, I think, and if I can interject, I think that's why I think it's important to get the guidance from the RMV, because I'm more concerned about the public way as regards to if it's supposed to be on the road. And if it is, then it's got to check a whole bunch of federal boxes.
Right. But Bob, if I had an electric assist fat bike and I was riding it on the road, it's not registered, but it's an electric vehicle, how can I do that?
Because that's a bicycle by definition.
Okay.
A 3,800-pound, what I'll call vehicle with 1,200-watt motor is not your fat bike.
Right.
And it takes a lane of travel.
But I mean, a bike technically is allowed to take a lane of travel.
Right,
too,
but this
right?
physically takes a lane of travel.
Okay.
A bicycle still, as you well know, has to move over when it's safe to do so.
Yeah.
This thing ain't moving over, right? So to that point, so for me, I just want a little more. I'd like to get the opinion of the general counsel of the RMV and again, in all fairness, we spoke to Section 5 of the RMV, which controls commercial and repair, and then they sent us over to special plate folks, which do like the slow-moving vehicles, and then they do special regulations. And that's why we had a litany of questions from the general counsel as it relates to a potential special vehicle.
Right.
So it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? If it's a vehicle that can be registered, then you can put it on the roadway. But if it's a vehicle that can be registered, then maybe you can't put it on the bike path.
No, it
But
seems.
I don't think making a decision without having this information.
Yeah, I agree.
Without this information from the RMV is
Well, and also making a decision would mean that we'd have to make a decision on something. Right. Right now, we're just using the current ordinance language.
Right.
And
I think it's more important, and again, to me, it's probably more important that I know from the state level if this thing can even be on the road.
Right, yeah.
Right. And now I wonder, 1 second, Nick. I wonder if there is it doesn't take a lane. If there's a large shoulder or whatever and it doesn't take a lane, it's on the side. Does that impact its ability to travel? Because I've seen bikes that these recumbent bikes, and it's enclosed. It's a vehicle,
Yeah, of course.
and someone lays inside of it and
Right.
pedals.
Right.
And I mean, it's not as wide as this, but I just wonder how those things.
But I think that's for the RMV to decide.
Right.
Which is why I think we do our due diligence and get their opinion. And who knows? I mean, if it truly is the first one in the state, then Nick maybe creating
Setting precedent.
RMV law, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's all I
Well, and then but if you never know. I mean, well, and that might not necessarily be bad. If you lobby right for it, you could get it on the road and on paths or whatever.
Just a few questions. Are you?
No, go on. Yeah.
One, if we do plan or want to do a route on the road, it will never be downtown first. The one we did do, we were checking where we were figuring out our rise and ride, which early morning you get up and you load up and you just go up towards the park this way, and we actually don't even come to the intersection, we just go around here. But every route that we would be doing in the streets, I'd get it approved by you, and if you said no, it's a no-go.
No, I think that's helpful because the original plan of coming downtown Cottage Street double
Yeah, that's
block
not
would be a bad idea.
I barely could fit.
I haven't gotten to that point yet. We
Yeah, that's true.
got to figure out things beyond the road before we can get to where we can go.
Exactly.
We just partnered with Mill 180 Park, the indoor park, and they're allowing us to do yoga before they open up. And so we're going to bring them business to their indoor facilities for food and drinks. But we're going to try to stay off the roads as much as possible.
Well, and I would recommend that for, and again, I don't want to discount, I'm still wanting to hear what the RMV has to say, but, you know, accidents happen in this town, car accidents happen in this town every single day.
And that's what I want.
And the odds of, you know, that thing getting hit go up
Pretty high.
exponentially.
If it's in the road.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
That's a serious concern.
Yeah.
So if they do say it's a small vehicle, which I haven't heard anything of, and it is, we do have to register it.
Yeah, so there is a there's a registry designation for small moving vehicles.
Yeah, and the
Like a
person
tractor.
said this doesn't.
But a register, like Williston's, their orange utility, their
The Kubota.
Kubotas,
Yeah.
those are actually registered as slow moving. They're actually registered through the RMV as slow moving vehicles.
So how do they
But those
get-
are motorized.
And they're also on the sidewalks. They use them on and the bike path. So that
Well,
they
that's
have to
not
cross
considered a
roads to
utility
get
vehicle.
there.
yeah.
Yeah, they can't.
I'm just
They're
saying.
not-
If, I mean, if we're gonna have concern,
They're
let's,
not
I mean,
supposed
let's
to be on a bike path.
be concerned about everything.
Right.
I don't disagree with you. In
like-
all
Oh,
fairness,
you're in
if you're
the
on the-
pulpit, I'm in the choir, man.
Right? I mean, if you're driving that thing on the sidewalk, which I see almost daily, like
They're not
that's-
supposed to be on the bike path. Right.
And they go from the ice rink to the athletic fields.
And we've had some conversations with them about that, and they've got another vehicle that's not supposed to be even on the road or the bike path.
So anyway, I hear that. You know, I just want to make sure that we're applying things evenly as we go here.
Well, I agree, and I would also say, in all fairness, in terms of discussion of not potentially trying to restrict anything, I'm just trying to clarify, and I also provided the committee here with how many page? It's not even fully complete. A 3-page ordinance,
Right.
specifically outlining
Sure.
use.
Well, and I think actually maybe this is a good place to go.
Well, and within the ordinance, you can potentially make concessions in terms of defining what these things are.
Right.
But again, I think it is also important on the state and local level to make sure that we're not violating anything currently.
And the RMV may very well come back and say, he cannot register this and it's not a motor vehicle.
Right.
Right, then it's a win for Nick.
Yeah.
And
But I
if
just
they-
wanna-
If they do, are we going to be back in here kicking me off the streets?
Well, I mean, I think if it's, I don't think it's that. I think, but I do think that, you know, as we move forward, Councilor Zarek put a lot of work into this, and I think this makes sense to, is the next step is to have some guidelines that would regulate. You know, for example, if you wanted to use the street, then it would have to be, I think that something would make sense in here would be to clear it with the chief of police and have that route, and that's just common sense, right?
Yeah.
But having that codified, that, you know, if you were going to do a route that included Nonotuck Park and going out through Wilson and then back down to the bike path, that you would get that approved through the chief of police.
Absolutely.
You know, so that, I mean, that's kind of the next steps. It's
Right, that's actually in here, is description of all routes would be, and I didn't get to that point too, and like, you know, part of this ordinance would also include all the specific allowed,
All the specifics.
not allowed,
Yeah.
documented, all the routes would have to be documented. So lest you think, Nick, that I'm trying to pull one over, I did put together an ordinance just like we talked about last time with definitions, operating regulations, so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it makes sense for us to take a look at this.
Nick, do you have the manufacturer specs?
I can email them to you.
Yeah, fire those over to me.
Yeah.
And like I said, that may very well, at least from the R&B's perspective, that may very well be this thing goes 4.5 miles an hour, and after looking at the manufacturer's specs, it's not a motor vehicle.
I mean, it does. I mean, from the primary mode of propulsion is pedal power, and so I imagine. I mean, I'm no R&B expert, but I would imagine that if the primary propulsion of a vehicle is pedal power, it doesn't take a genius to figure that one out. But you never know. There's,
So, as,
I'm not looking for a genius. I'm looking for the
as of right now, we
general
have,
counsel of the R&B.
as of right now, we have our first group of 14 coming in from Boston in 2 weeks. Is there anything stopping me from bringing them in?
Like I said before, I don't believe that there is. My interpretation of the current ordinance, and it seems like the Bike Trail Committee is the representative from the bike. Well, I'm not going to have you represent them,
Yeah, no,
but I am going to say that after talking to Barbara, who has no problems with it, and the last time I talked to her, she had no problems
Wow,
whatsoever.
we was meeting last night.
Oh, interesting. So, well, that wasn't last night, but it was, and the gentleman that came out to the site visit didn't seem to have any problems. He seemed relatively excited. So.
Oh, yeah, he was.
Well,
yeah.
are you allowed to report out what was discussed?
Oh, I am. I'm reporting. This is why I'm here. I'm reporting to the committee after.
But there was a meeting last night.
Yeah, we had a meeting last night.
What they said.
Well, no, I just said I was going to the, ordinance committee to find out what's going on with all of this.
Uh-huh.
So
And
I will report to them.
Did they have any sort of?
I don't, size-wise, okay? And I'm gonna move myself away from the committee, and I'm gonna be a personal bike rider. Nothing against all that. I think it's lovely. I'm an avid bike rider. I would not feel comfortable being on the bike trail behind that and trying to pass it. That's all, that's my personal, because I think it's just too big. It does take up the whole side. And so for personally, I would not feel comfortable because I would have to yell, "On your left!" And I don't know if anybody would hear me so that I could pass. So that's just my thing. Back to the being on the Manhattan Rail Committee. They're just, that's the main thing is the size. It just, the width, taking up the whole width of one whole thing. What I had said last night was, getting rid of the alcohol, I would be very, I'd have a little bit of a more saying, okay, it's fine to do this, but again, it's just so big. That's the biggest concern.
Just to help a little bit, we did install a rear view mirror for our drivers, so they see that.
Okay, Peg.
Question for Nick. So 14 people coming in from Boston. Bold move. When you have nothing arranged yet, but okay, good luck with that.
Before I get kicked off from all the...
Hang on. So are you going to be on the road with this or 100% on the Manhattan Rail Trail with these 14 people?
100% rail trail.
There's no dipping, crossing a street, none of that?
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
to stay on the
How are you
rail
getting-
trail, you gotta cross the street. to
Try
go
getting to the Fort Hill.
Well, yeah, you gotta go down Fort Hill Road
Okay.
too. But
Okay.
I mean, I will admit, as a cyclist, that the size is a concern of
Yeah.
mine, both in terms of the length and in terms of the width. And so, to Annette's point, it's not like having like a row of bikes in front of you that are, how long is this again? 16 feet?
16 feet.
So unlike having like 16 feet of people of bikes or whatever in front of you on the bike trail where you could probably pass one and move back into the lane, you have to run the entire length. And then,
I'm sorry.
and then the width, frankly, watching it was concerning to me that if you catch it at a moment where half of the seats are on the other side of the other lane, I'm worried about that being a safety issue and having basically half of a lane to maneuver in to pass. Just my concern.
Is there anything in our purview that would create some sort of a pilot program where we all stack hands and agree that for the summer, between now and September 15th, we're going to see how this goes?
Yeah, I mean, we can absolutely do that.
Yeah.
I would like to hear from the chief.
On the bike path.
Yeah.
Until you hear from the.
And here's what it is. I mean, really, it's
Yeah.
all we have to do is verbalize it and say to Nick, hey, we're gonna do that. We're not gonna put any regulations in that are going to restrict you. And
But we'll revisit.
But we'll
in
revisit
September.
this,
Maybe we
and
could ask him for data throughout the summer, or at the end of the summer, of how many trips, how many people,
Yeah.
how many whatever.
As a taxpayer, not as the police chief, what about a joint meeting with, prior to that, or just prior to that, a joint meeting with the rail trail, you guys, the
Yeah.
rail trail committee, you
I
guys?
didn't know that.
Mhm.
yeah. Well, I wouldn't. I mean, I don't know. Do you have like a written confirmation from the rail trail that they gave you permission, or was that just verbal?
I looked at the minutes of the July 23rd and it said Nick came forward and introduced this idea, and then and we wish him good luck with his endeavor, and is there any way we can pull up videos?
I don't know if the rail trail is.
I just
video.
know, like I said, I wasn't there, I just
Do you
know that
video
they're.
your meetings?
No, we don't videotape
Yeah, they're not
videos.
It wasn't here.
Yeah, they're not.
We don't videotape
Yeah.
the meetings. All I'm saying is,
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for
Thanks,
coming.
Chief.
Barb has an email, a copy of an email that didn't, the specifics of the size of the vehicle were different
Sorry,
than what
keep
we
it. No,
came
it's
up
okay.
with afterwards. That's all I'm
I'm
saying.
gonna look at all the
Yeah.
sent emails today.
Yeah.
I didn't want to lie about anything. I don't think.
Yeah.
You'll email me those specs, Nick? Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night, you guys.
Thanks, Chief.
Bye.
Yeah, I mean, I think that whether it's a joint. And did you guys discuss last night?
No.
Okay.
Because we had other stuff.
Okay.
It was just, I said, I think they just mentioned that it's gonna be brought up at this meeting, so that, I said I would be coming anyway.
What's the meeting schedule? of
We
that?
only meet once a month.
I actually have it, because I was supposed to go last night.
June
but I think
17th? No.
Yeah, that's something like that.
Yeah.
You might be, I'd have to find that email.
And what was that meeting, Nick, that you got that minutes?
July
from?
23rd, 2018. I ordered the bike July 24th.
Yeah, I have it.
Arrived in September, and that's when I started meeting with the
June,
license
yeah, June
committee in October.
17th. potentially.
June 17th.
But again, I mean, in all fairness, I mean, and I apologize to you, Nick, but I don't think necessarily that the Rail Trail Committee is necessarily a certifying body.
No.
Well, that's the body I was pushed to with this idea, and when they said good to go, then I said okay.
Well, and I wouldn't say that they're a certifying body, but they do. Historically, they arrange for regulations that govern the bike path. So I've worked with them when creating ordinances, and they have the purview over the enforcement of the bike path. I mean, they do the cleanup, they do all the maintenance. They are the ones that are like the DPW to the streets. It's the Manhan Rail Trail to the bike path. And I would say that they have more than enough authority to interpret the current ordinance and say this fits within the scope of what we believe to be acceptable use. I think that that's within their purview. I think, changing what is acceptable, what the ordinance is, that's our purview. But I think that is something that has been done before. Like if they want to have an event on the rail trail, it goes through the rail trail committee. I mean, if when they do the bike to work breakfast, they want to set up a tent, they go through the rail trail committee. So they have an authoritative. I don't know what the word would be. Purview. Oversight. Yeah. Counselor, did you have something?
No, I was just going to say that the comment was the committee supports the concept and wishes him luck in his endeavor. And they talked about his plans for buying a 15-person AKA pedal tavern that will be used for group excursions in Easthampton. One possible idea is a brewery tour.
Okay.
The committee supports it and wishes him well in his endeavor.
I mean,
I'm just going by what Barbara told me, that she said.
But brewery tour does
specifically-
not
Yeah.
indicate drinking
Yeah.
on it.
right, but no, it doesn't.
So-
And I think that piece, right, for now is
Dead-
at least
dead in the water.
that's a move.
But I think the size-wise
We're
was
just gonna prove one
different.
thing after another, and
Yeah.
we'll revisit it.
Yeah.
But we understand.
So, and actually, I like your idea because I think like we all have our individual concerns to varying levels, and I think that if it's already been on the trail so far. I don't know if it's necessarily caused any problems, but I think that if we, I mean that is pretty clear to me, whether they think that this is okay for the bike path. I mean seems to be pretty clear.
Yeah.
So I don't think that there's anything stopping you from going in your thing in 2 weeks. I don't think it's necessarily wrong for us to try to set up a meeting with the Rail Trail Committee to say, hey, would you mind if we didn't do any legislation on this to give it a chance to succeed?
I mean, given
and go
that it's
from there.
the first in the state, I guess I would feel not good about shutting it down without giving it a chance. I still don't think this is the best market for you, but I think I'm with you.
That's why it's not
I don't think we should block it. I don't think we should necessarily. I would like to see how the summer goes.
Me too.
Because
Yeah.
that's kind of your time, right?
Exactly. Maybe the
And
fall might
and
be
maybe
nice, too.
leaf peeping,
Yeah.
which could be actually kind of nice, actually. But I think I would like to see. I would like to get public opinion. I would like to get more data of actual use of it,
Mhm.
and maybe you could get us some sort of a report at the end of the summer.
Like how
this
many people you brought out,
trips,
how many
Yeah.
trips, like whether you had any issues.
Yeah.
I think that would be helpful.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
You've done trials, have you done it when it's really, really busy on the weekends?
We've done it almost every day of the week so far.
No, have you done it
Really
when
nice.
it's really busy on the weekends? That's what I'm asking.
Saturdays, really nice Saturdays, yeah. And
We
it's
haven't
been
had many
really
nice Saturdays.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, where have you been?
I'm not taking this out in the pouring rain.
I
so-
just,
Except for us.
Because, I stay off the rail trail on the weekends because it's so busy,
Yeah.
so that's,
We've been there, and that's where we had our most success. People I didn't have business cards made up yet, and everyone was going crazy.
Huh, interesting.
yeah.
Food truck Fridays is Friday.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Excited.
Oh,
That's
that's
this Friday.
that's a good one.
I'm on the skeptical end of the concept, but I don't think we should shut it down before, especially in light of the fact that this is the first time in the state we're doing this. I kind of dig the fact that we're
The
the
first.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
And, I hope it's
Put
successful.
that on t-shirts. and-
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're the first.
Councilor Zarek.
Who's trying to shut it down? Are you implying that I'm trying to shut it down? Okay, because I'm not. I'm trying to clarify and to make sure that, and I think that there was some misunderstanding about the exact roles that the Manhattan Rail Trail Committee plays in terms of interpreting our ordinances. And I think that there's still questions. And so while we're asking those questions, I'm not suggesting that we impede the use or restrict the use of this vehicle, but there's questions on the state level, there's questions on the local level,
Yeah.
and I just want them answered.
Sure.
And potentially, as we have this discussion more, again, in light of the fact that in good faith, I did, and I'm happy to email this to you too, Nick, I did start writing an ordinance for operation of a quadricycle that some of the answers we get that may potentially restrict this would be helpful if we do decide to move forward with some sort of ordinance around it in terms of saying, well, if this is restricted, then we may need to include language to allow it. So I just, before I get painted as the bad guy here, I just want to make it clear that I'm just
No.
trying to ask good questions, again, in the interest of the safety and the rules of our city.
Sure.
To make it clear, you did tell me at the start of this that you want to make sure the rules are written and read properly, so I do understand that.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to, I think that we're at a point of interpretation, which is a little bit nebulous as it relates to this particular vehicle, which I will concede, and I think it's important for us as we look towards the potential further legislation of this, that we have a goal in mind. I mean, and if the goal is to keep this off the bike trail, then it's very clear what we need to do. And if the goal is to make sure that we're crossing all our T's and dotting our I's, then that's pretty simple too. I mean, it's like an adjustment of language. So there are two pretty distinct outcomes though. One is that this will be allowed to continue, and one is that it will be prohibited. And I think it's important, like, no matter the lens we look at it from, there's two destinations that we're going to end at. and I think it's important for us to not lose track of those two destinations and what is important to us.
Yeah, I'm
You know.
more in the dotting my T's and cross.
Okay.
No, I'm dotting my I's and crossing.
Gotcha.
No, but to some extent right now, our T's are dotted and our I's are crossed.
Yeah.
And we need
Yeah.
to really put some clarification. The chief obviously has spoken to people on the state level in regards to DOT legal, and we may have to ask our solicitor in terms of if we're going to make language and contradict the language we currently have, that's all.
Well, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, and so do we want to go over this tonight, or do we want to
I mean, it's up to you, right? It's up to you. I mean, do you want to digest it more? I only
Yeah,
sent it to you about like 6 hours ago. So.
Right. I mean, I did have a chance to look at it. I think there's some good things in here. I think there's some things I'd probably leave out, but I think it's a step in the right direction. You know, and I appreciate you doing that. And I think Councilor Coniff felt that it was a GOV. What is the?
GOV?
You felt it was heavy. The gross
The
ordinance.
vehicle-
GOW.
Yeah.
Gross ordinance of weight. Right?
Yeah, it felt really heavy.
Okay.
To me.
So but maybe it does make sense for us to take a look at it, digest it, and then come back to it. I just didn't. I figured I'd give you the opportunity if you wanted to like.
No, I wanted to just introduce it so you guys could start looking at it. A lot of this is based off of that
Michigan one?
The Michigan one, and it's actually so far a pared down version of the Michigan
Right.
one, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
I didn't get to certain parts. This is the meat of it. There'd be some parts at the end that talk a little bit more about routes and allowed places of operation and
Right.
stuff like that. But I wanted to at least do like, this is probably, 8/9 of,
Yep.
what I would think the total thing would be. But I think there's some important stuff in here about safety and inspections and making sure that
Insurance.
it's operating properly, insurance,
Oh,
and making
God.
sure that the city is not held liable. You're familiar with insurance.
Do you have insurance?
I'm not pulling the trigger until we're good to
Oh, I
go,
see.
but it's ridiculous.
Making sure we're following the right rules, establishing certain rules, rules for passengers, rules. So look it over and,
Yep. Take a look at it.
So,
Okay. Good. Well, I think this is helpful.
So you start in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Nick, if you want to email me when some of your trips are or place you'll be, I can post them on my counselor page so people know.
Okay, so I got an update. So we're going to take a look at this Board of Public Works. I'm not going to vote on that tonight.
But I will say I know I should.
I don't necessarily either, but I feel like
I haven't read it fully.
Yeah, Councilor Coniff
Just
should
wanna read
be
it.
able to read it. And then let's take a look at. I haven't been able to touch base with Jeff about the parking thing yet, so I'm still gonna.
Is that the on-off street? Okay, so that, what time I was gonna ask.
He said he says he has some really good stuff for me, but we just haven't had a chance to connect. So,
Okay.
because Amherst apparently dealt with that quite a bit, so he said he had some like stuff ready to go.
Oh, all right.
So,
Okay, cool.
yeah, I just haven't seen it yet.
It's gonna be called
And then it looks like
GDAL.
What about the zero lot lines now? Are we?
A little in or
Yeah.
so
So
that
is that
I set the
a done
public
deal?
hearing.
You set the public
Yep,
hearing,
it's
didn't
done deal. I set the public hearing. We have that June
Okay.
5th. And
All right.
and
Now here is footnote.
yep, so we'll vote on that then.
be on there when.
And the equity applications, is that still ongoing?
So we
with
continued
the-
that public hearing with the planning board.
Yeah.
Hang on, guys. Guys,
Sorry.
meeting's still going.
Let me just see.
Thank you.
When did we make a date for that?
For the-
June 4th. Thanks, Nick.
Is that what it was? Okay,
Wasn't it June 4th?
let me just check.
Is the
Yep,
next
ordinance.
one
Yep,
another-
June 4th. Yep. So, and then our next meeting after that would be June 18th.
Yes.
Is that now? Do we want to try to create a joint meeting with the Manhattan Rail Trail Committee for their next meeting,
You mean like if they could come to our meeting or vice
or
versa?
vice versa? Just to see, because I mean,
We should probably cross that T, dot that I.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
When's the next one?
June 17th.
17th, the day before.
17th. Oh,
Could you maybe could you move it to the 18th, or we could go to theirs and not?
I doubt if you
Yeah.
can move it to the 18th.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll do the 17th.
Where do you guys meet?
Here,
Oh, right here.
right here.
This room?
Six, right?
This room.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Want to
Alright,
move our meeting to the 17th?
Yeah, well, I could cancel the meeting.
Well,
Or and I'll just post the 16th.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, what's
17th.
17th?
17th. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Because we were on the 18th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys meet at 6?
7.
7?
Oh, so
Yeah.
we could meet beforehand.
It's a true story.
Right, so we meet, right, so we meet like.
And we'll just stay in session.
Yep.
Or do we have to, oh, I see, and then what, and then they
We
come?
have that topic as a discussion, we close our meeting, we could leave,
Yep.
and they could continue.
Yep.
All right, well, we'll just run that by.
How do we
Barbara.
get on your agenda?
So we would
I'll-
be at like 6 o'clock?
I'll contact Barbara.
Alright.
We'd be at 6 then instead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, okay, I just
Yep.
have to check a few things for you.
Is that gonna work? You think?
Oh, I can make it work, I just have to like. Make it work. Yeah, no.
All right, and I will. I'm gonna take this ordinance meeting from the 18th out. Let's delete. Okay.
So I'm just gonna write question, joint meeting. Do you think we even need an hour before we meet with the?
We might not need an hour.
Well,
Oh, here we go. I do have a.
Hey,
How much longer are you going?
We're finishing up.
Okay, cool, because I should know if we should move our meeting downstairs.
I don't
No,
think you.
no, I think,
Yeah, we're just about to finish up.
sorry, I didn't mean to
Yep.
speak for you.
That's fine. I'm not offended. I just got a response from Mark Tanner, a lawyer. I have a draft response which we are vetting internally. I anticipate that I'll have a final response for you earlier next week. Just as an FYI, I received a call from Bill Newman. I told him to send me anything he wanted me to consider. At this point, I have not received anything yet. I have not been contacted by Newman. Okay, so let's try to meet with the Manhattan Rail Trail Committee next on the 17th, Monday the 17th.
so I mean, we kind of probably do need an hour, only because our agenda is so large.
Yeah, because we're gonna have to.
We're not just gonna talk about that.
No, I didn't think we were, I just didn't know what
Oh,
are we
we are
gonna talk
gonna, that whole
about.
topic though will go into, so maybe, let's make it 6:15 or,
6:15.
yeah.
Does that work better for you?
Because
Oh, it's all good, yeah.
It's about 15 minutes of that will be
I just have
their
to
meeting.
see, I just have to see their soccer practice, which is not
Oh.
an issue, I just have to make sure that I deliver my soccer player and then
Oh.
someone get.
Deposit
Yeah,
said,
and then
Exactly.
make sure that they can get home.
Well, that's right, I have someone who could drop her
Oh,
at
okay.
City Hall.
Okay. All right. So good. All right. I will coordinate that with Barbara, and hopefully we can make that.
6:15, did we say 6:15?
Okay. 6:15. 6:15, Monday the 17th. Ordinance meeting, which will then dovetail with Manhattan Rail Trail. Oh, if they.
And if all
they
the
accept
stars
us.
align, we're out of here by 7:15.
Yes.
So we asked about, you were talking about other agenda items, we parking, we didn't get a chance, we're not discussing.
Jeff
Um,
has.
Zero lot lines is scheduled for public hearing.
Yep.
6:04. Welcoming community, now we can say that.
We should have the response by next week.
Yes, shortly.
I'm sorry,
Yep.
you're still on.
Okay.
And, hang on, proposal for city ordinance amendment, open consumption of alcohol and cannabis, where are we with that?
So what we have to do with that is I need to sit down and so I have to amend my amended alcohol one to include the so my concern was that there's some regulations within the Parks and Rec department that if taken in isolation would run counter to what the current city language has. So I got that from, I met with John Mason, I don't have any issues with, well, I mean, not that, I just want to make sure that everything jives.
Okay.
And then the cannabis stuff, I think we're still waiting
On the CCC.
on the CCC, although my understanding from what I've been seeing about preliminary language is it's not going to really affect our proposed
Okay.
language, so.
And cannabis,
Ongoing issues.
adult use, is that the
That's just
CCC still?
Yeah, we have that on there. So if anything, if
Comes
Jeff sees any things in the
He can go,
ordinance
hey.
Or CCC's anything.
or
Yeah.
if CCC
If you
sees
will.
anything.
There is potentially an opportunity for us to become a pilot community for social consumption.
Okay.
That's going to be I mean, like, as it is an opportunity for anybody.
Right.
But that's gonna be coming out with it, and like, I strongly encourage the mayor and the planner that we
Oh,
make
yeah.
sure we keep on top of that, participate in that.
When that first was floated, I was hoping that we would be one of the first.
Well, I think there was a miscommunication
opportunity?
in regards to the planning group or whatever you want to call
Right.
it. So, but that was
Okay.
not, yeah, so I did speak with the commissioner about that to make sure they were kept.
That's great. Thanks for
Motion to, oh,
Yes, yes,
thanks for doing that.
sorry. Motion to adjourn.
a second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Okay. We will adjourn at 6:36.
Ooh.